also known as ORC. For those of you who attended the Tuesday session, this is going to be the same. So it's the same information. We're just doing it on a couple of different days to make sure everyone has the access and availability to get a heads up on what's coming down. So I just wanted to share that ahead of time. Also, I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that what I'm showing today is from a hiring manager perspective. And so for BPs and RCs that are on board, this information is only going to be what the hiring manager will be using. There was no sense in trying to teach every aspect of the recruiting process to the hiring managers, because that would just be confusing in all honesty. And so this is pertinent information for the hiring manager. So parts of it will be left out intentionally because it's needed on the recruiting side of things. So based on that, we're going to move along. So as you are aware, the new recreation right now is on pause while we transition over to ORC. And this is going to allow for an easier transition and the ability to focus on getting all of those current open positions filled and closed. I really want to thank you for your patience and your partnership during this process as we work through this. So let's move along to the agenda. So we will be going live. Technically, it's going to turn on January 1. So applicants will be able to set up profiles ahead of time. We'll give them some information and let them know that that's coming so they can get on, and maybe for their New Year's resolution, they can set up a profile on the new ORC portal for job and hiring. We'll see how that works. But for the rest of us, we come back on January 3rd. We're going to be up and running. So what we're looking at today is we're going to be introducing some details about ORC, show some basics on how to create a requisition, go through the applicant review process, and then show how to schedule candidate interviews. So ORC is an amazing little system. And there will be some new and some modified versions of things. One of the new things that we're going to see is that this is an integrated cloud-based system, and it takes away the need for many of the steps which were needed to connect NeoGov to Oracle. So those go away, and those are going to be great time savers. And the new processes and features will make the hiring process way more efficient, which means you get time back in the process. Some of the things that are modified are simply because we tried to mimic the hiring process when it made sense. So you're still going to see creating a requisition. You're still going to see SME review. We're still going to refer candidates. We're still going to offer, and then there's going to be a post-offer process. That's not changing. That will be familiar. It's just we'll be looking at it a little bit differently, and we'll be working within this cloud-based system to make it happen. And I think you're going to find the tools are very easy to use and to understand. One of the changes is that I'm struggling even getting used to is that class specs are now position profiles. And so whenever you hear me talk about a position profile or a profile, we're talking to the class spec or the job description that we used to have, or that we have out on the website for the public and for all of the employees to view. What is great is that the position profiles will stay the same, except they will be pre-approved now. And so currently the process is after the rec is created, we go through the approval process to post the job. And that's because we have to review the rec and review the budget. Everything now will be pre-approved. So if the position profile is available to choose when you create a rec, no approval process is going to be needed. But what is very important in this process, though, is that the position profile is reviewed prior to creating the rec. And it's really important to work with the HRBPs during this process to make sure that the minimum qualifications, the educational requirements, the job duties are all current and reflect what needs to happen in that position. They will be able to work with you and make sure it gets to compensation where any edits have to happen before the rec is created. So again, this is an important change, but is extremely important in streamlining the process after the rec is created. Another change is that these now are single incumbency requisitions, which means that there is only one vacancy per rec. And we'll talk about this a little more in just a few minutes, but now we can have multiple vacancies on a rec. We will not be able to do that any longer for a standard rec, but there is a way to work with this, and we're going to talk about how to make that happen. So we're going to move on to some navigation tips. This is the ORC dashboard. And this is probably going to be an area where you're working in a lot more than just ORC, but you'll have a dashboard for Oracle in general. And so on the top left, we have the city seal, and that will always be your way home. So click on the seal and get you home. You click on the 3 lines next to the seal and it gives you some options to choose from on where to navigate to. On the top right are your bell notifications. And here, these are going to be very important because not all of the communication through ORC and Oracle, for that matter, are going to show up in your emails. Some of the things just need to show up in a notification. Otherwise, we would never be able to filter through all of the emails that come through. So we can tailor this along the way. So if there are still too many emails coming in and we need to turn them into bell notifications, we can do that. But I just wanted everyone to be aware that bell notifications will be your best friend in your communications for things that have to keep you on track and moving forward. Excuse me. Action items and analytics are down here at the bottom. It's under like things to finish. And these are alerts to what action items you have. And then the analytics provide you the data as far as if things are behind, if you're behind, or, where you need to focus to get back up to date or into a current time frame. My team and my client groups, these are the tabs across the top under your name. And these will be very important because they basically are the 2 tabs you're going to be choosing in the hiring process. Profiles, which we're not showing here yet, is where you'll be able to find the position profiles. And then this hiring tile in the center is where it all gets started. And so when it comes time to create a rec, you're going to come to your homepage, come to my team, and click on hiring. And then we will move along. And this is how we create a rec. So once you click on your hiring tile, this requisition page will pop up. And it's a simple way. You just click the little add button. And that's how we get started. There are two different options though, and we talked about single incumbency a little earlier. And that is standard recs. When you click add and we go to the next page, standard recs are for one vacancy in a position only. And this is for civilian or sworn. The pipeline, which is new, is used when there are two or more vacancies in the same position which are needing a recruitment. These are not used very often, but it still happens. Fire and police cadet academies, summer camps, and there are other examples of larger volume hiring as well. That's when you're going to be using pipeline. And we're going to talk about it. It's super easy to make happen, but it allows for the back part of the system to be really clean and for, excuse me, audits to happen very easily because we have one rec and one hire in the end. So at this point, we have already reviewed our position profile. We've clicked on the hiring tile on our dashboard because we are ready to create a rec. And we're going to click add to get this party started. So we're going to click add, and here we go. This is a standard requisition first. And so let's take a moment to talk about what we're seeing here. It's really not as bad as it looks. This first box, where it has number 1 and how, this big box here actually contains all of the steps. The little boxes broken out on side are just where I have collapsed this down, but you can see the different steps along the way. So, this is a pipeline though. Let's go back to standard. There we go. So I've selected standard. In the use, you will select position, and then you will choose your position. And that's it for box 1. And we're going to click continue. And then you go to number 2, which is your basic information. And this will populate itself. And you will notice that this number of openings in a standard requisition is limited to 1. We're going to click continue. And then we're at the hiring team. And this is where whomever is responsible for entering the rec, it could be the hiring manager and it could be an administrative assistant, but they will need to enter, it will default to the person entering the requisition. It needs to be changed to the hiring manager. In this case, because we've chosen an accountant, Brian Smart is the hiring manager. And then each department has HRBPs assigned to your team. You will just put that HRBP in here. And if there's anyone else that needs to be part of this process, that's where they can be entered into collaborators. So if, for an example, a supervisor that you will want to also review applications, they can be entered into the collaborator type. And you click continue. Now we're at requisition structure. We're going to choose the recruiting type. And I've provided a little drop down here to show all of the different types. An accountant is considered a professional position. And so we've selected professional. But in all of these different areas, depending on what the position is, will determine what your recruiting type is. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can reach out to your BP or the recruitment team and we can guide you. The organization and the primary location, they have to be selected, but there's not really much to choose from. Organization is City of Chattanooga. Primary location is the Chattanooga, Tennessee. And you hit continue. And then we're down to details. So again, we have worker type, which is an employee, regular or temporary. We're choosing regular, and then part-time or full-time. And this is a full-time position. And we click continue. And that's it. That is how we create a requisition. We hit save and close, which is actually in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And it's moved along. The HRBP that you have assigned this to will get it, and they will assign it to the appropriate recruiter who will then start the process. It is that simple. So it looks a little daunting, but really not so. Same with the pipeline. It's the same process as the standard with just a few changes. So here we're going to choose pipeline requisition, position, the uses position. And then we chose I chose fire cadet because they do multiple hires for academies. And so over in basic information, we're going to change the number in the number of openings from 1 to 20 or whatever. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 25. And we're going to click continue. Again, hiring manager and HRBP need to be filled in, as does the collaborator. Click continue. Requisition structure. This was actually supposed to be pipeline. I kind of put in fire because, you know, it's the fire department, but any mistakes like that can be undone. But this is a pipeline. And so again, the city and the primary location are Chattanooga. Click continue. The details, again, you choose your worker type, regular or temporary, full-time or part-time, and click continue. And again, requisition is done. Save and close in the top right-hand corner, and it moves along to the HRBP. Your part of it is done until it's time to review candidates. It literally takes like 2 minutes to create a rec. But again, the most important part of this whole process is that you review the position profile prior to creating the rec. And then once the HRBP and the recruiting coordinator see it, they can pull that through without having to have approvals because recs are needing to be changed. So remember that what was set up initially when the rec is created is what gets pulled through the entire way. So now we're on to applicant review. And there are some things that happen in the meantime, in the background. So once that they all happen and we're moving on to applicant review, we're going to show you how to navigate to your applicants. So we've seen this screen before. This is your requisition screen where you added your requisition. But now we're going to look at the actual requisitions that are in process. So we're going to obviously, you know, click on your hiring tile from your dashboard. You'll see your list of requisitions. You're going to click on a job title, any of these job titles, which will be under you because you will be the hiring manager and you will see these. You will not see every single rec in the organization. These will be tailored to you as the hiring manager. So when you click on, if we're going to go the blue arrow route, there's 2 ways to go. We can go blue arrow, we can do green arrow. Blue arrow, click on the business, like for example, HR business partner, or requisition or recreation facility manager 1. And it takes us to key highlights, which is this box where the next blue arrow is. Here we can click on active applications, the number 4, and it takes us over to the job applications or all of the applicants listed. We can skip this blue process and go straight to the green by just clicking on the applications that are highlighted over on the right-hand corner. So if you just click on applications, it takes you to job applications, and then you won't have to go through the key highlights. It just tells you all of the basic specs about the requisition, and it gives you some others too. It says, you know, so you have the active applications, you have hires out of 1, unconfirmed applications. So it gives you a few more nuggets, but for the most part, you can easily just move over to job applications. You're very familiar with SME review, which is, part of the process we did not change. This is where you will look through your candidates and choose which ones you would like to get their contact information for an interview. So when you have the job applications, you will notice that some of these you can see because they've already been moved into referred. But this one right here where it says name and 4470, excuse me, that still needs to be reviewed. And so we are in SME review to be reviewed. That's the current status. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down and we are going to click on that applicant. It opens up a candidate box. We will choose under phase SME review, and then we will choose what we would like to do with this candidate. If we like this candidate, we will choose pass. If we don't like this candidate because they don't have the qualifications that you're looking for or the experience, we're going to reject by the employer. If you want to just hold on to this one for a little while, like say you're not super stoked and you're like, okay, let's see what else is out there, we can just click reviewed and they can stay in that state for a little while. But just remember that the only ones that you will get a referred list from are the ones that you select pass candidate. So RCs, recruiting coordinators, get your list and they do their magic in the back and they send you the referred list. And now you will be able to see the names of the candidates. And at that point, we are going to choose what to do with them. So we are going to click on the candidate name, click on for the phase interview and selection. And then we're going to click on interview to be scheduled. And that is how you select them to move forward in the interview process, because now some decisions have to be made on how to conduct the interviews. And this is a new and exciting feature. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. It seems like it has a lot of steps to it, but they actually move really quickly, and it saves up a lot of time and frees up your time and allows candidates to self-schedule their interviews, which is super exciting. So we have clicked on interview to be scheduled. And now we're done with that process. So to create an interview schedule, there's two different steps. First of all, we have to choose our candidates. First of all, we have to choose our candidates whom we are going to create this interview schedule for. We see the candidate schedule is interview to be scheduled. Look at the blue arrow. So we're like, okay, we have an action item here. We have to get this moving. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will see interviews. There will be this box that shows up on the left-hand side of your dashboard, and you can choose interviews. And then when you do that, you'll have an interview box that pops up, and that is where we're going to add. So here we just click add. Now we bring up creating the interview creating an interview schedule. And again, looks a little daunting. I have it broken out, but when you first open it up, you will see this box right here, and it has 5 steps, just like creating a requisition. Most of the time, it's just a few clicks in each box. So for basic information, we have to choose at this time, are we going to allow a candidate managed interview selection time, or are we going to do a hiring manager team selection process? I'm sorry, interview selection process. You can choose, and I'll go through the hiring team managed in just a moment, but we're going to run through the candidate managed right now really quick. So we're going to check the one we want, continue, the scheduled title, and which will be your job title, and click continue. I'm sorry, the schedule title is interview candidate manage, and that will populate on its own. My apologies. So in basic information, you'll choose your template, which is interview candidate managed, and then your schedule title, which will be interview candidate managed. Your next box will pop up. Number 2, location details. We're going to choose whether or not this is going to be in person, by phone, or a web conference. And then depending on what you decide, we'll determine where your location details are. So we're going to choose in person and click continue. Settings, this populates and is defaulted to these particular items, but you can change any of these. So if you would like the candidates to be able to reschedule, keep that checked. If you want them to be able to cancel, keep that checked. If you want them to see future interviews, keep that checked. And so it's your choice on what you want them to see. Interview visibility, you can set your timeframes. You can limit the amount of time then they can reschedule once, twice. Maybe you don't want them to reschedule unless they contact you. And then can candidates make last minute changes? I don't know. Do we want them to? That's up to you. I would think that if we have time blocked, and this is just my opinion, that we would, if we do let them make changes, then we would want to probably allow for a 24 or 48 hour time frame prior to the interview for that, unless, and that they can do it on their own. Otherwise, they'll have to call you and speak with you personally. But if you don't want to just keep all of this the same, you click continue. 4 and 5 doesn't have a lot in here. It's just if you have any candidate information, like say you want to see certifications during an interview, you can include, or you can say, hey, can you please bring this along with you? Maybe you want to provide driving or parking instructions for an interview. You can include those. That is where you find the candidate information. And then you're down here at the bottom, which is number 6 on reminders. This is a helpful little tool because when you say, once you set up your calendar of all of the open slots, once you get down to like 2 or 3 or 5, you can get a reminder to let you know that the slots are becoming full. And so that will alert you to the fact that you have a lot of applicants that have chosen their slots. And then you can also update your calendar at that time as well. And so we are going to, it defaults to 5. We'll leave the number of openings to 5. It'll send a reminder, and then we're going to save and close. So the next thing to do is, now that we've set up our interview schedule like we'd like for the candidates to see, we are going to publish this interview schedule. So again, we're going to click on interviews in the left-hand side of the screen. Interviews will be in draft status. So our interview schedules will pop up. We'll see interview candidate managed, created by the hiring manager, and we'll see a draft status, which has to change. So we are going to look at these 3 little dots over on the right-hand side. My apologies. Very sensitive. We're going to look at the 3 little dots on the right-hand side of the screen, and we are simply going to change this to publish schedule. We're going to click on this, and voila. Our interview schedule is now published. That was an easy one. So now the last thing to do, and again, this seems like it has a lot of steps to it, but it goes really fast, and it will be a time saver in the long run and allow for a really great candidate experience instead of you trying to follow up multiple times trying to get a candidate to schedule an interview. So we have our interview schedules, you will see, and we will see that it's published. So we're going to click on this interview candidate managed yet again, and it brings up our interviews. So what we have to do is we have to tell the candidate now what the days and times that we have open for them to choose from. Click on this little ad right here in the center. It's kind of hiding. Once we do that, we can fill in these spots, and we'll also want to just verify this basic information. This is all of the information down here where it says basic information that you can edit. You populated this yourself. And so if you need to make a change, you can. Otherwise, you just move along past it. So when you click on add, this is what pops up. And so it basically is going to say, what dates do you want on here? So we're going to move through this, and it's interview dates. When you click on the calendar, you select the dates that you want it to be included in your options. You select your start time for these dates. So maybe you're going to have 3 days of interviews, and you're going to run them from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. like I've selected, but your meeting duration is 45 minutes. And so from 12:15 to 12:17, from 12 to 3, they will be able to select slots within there that are 45 minutes in duration. You will select your interviewer. So anybody who is going to be a part of the interview panel will also get this information. But this is a really key part of it. The number of candidates. If you are doing one interview at a time, this is the number that you will be putting in this box for number of candidates. If you are doing group interviews, say fire cadets, I know does some group interviews. They could maybe see 5 or 10 people at a time for a roundtable type of interview. And so there you would enter your 5 or your 10 if you wanted to be able to have that many applicants per slot. If you only want to have 1 candidate per slot, then you take the 1. So I know that's a little confusing, but when you get in it and you see how the calendar populates, it's pretty cool. And then some of the really great features and one of the questions I had from the last group was, what happens in the calendar when you do that? Like, do the slots go away? The slots go away. As soon as a candidate selects a slot that for their interview, it becomes unavailable to be seen by anybody. If they go in and reschedule, the new slot that they've chosen goes away, and the one that they were in opens back up immediately. If they cancel their position, then the new one just opens back up. So it's real time, and you see this happening right away. And so it allows for you don't have to think about it. One of the things too I wanted to explain is that unfortunately, it doesn't like to play nice with our Google calendars. So I wish we could integrate this a little more, but it won't allow us to. For that reason, once you have your calendar filled, I would suggest, holding your spots on your calendar prior to publishing. And then once you have, a couple days before you have everybody in there, you can move them over to your calendar and put their names in. There's really no other way to do it. I tried, I promise. But it's still going to be a huge time saver for us. The last way to do it is you can do a personal invite for a candidate, just like you've done in the past. You go in and you click on hiring, click on the candidate's name, and under actions, you just send an interview invite. And so there is a quick and easy way to do that, but you are fully managing this on your own. And so you will have to follow up with the invite, make sure that you are communicating with them, and then it gets populated into your calendar. So still can happen fairly easily if you don't want to actually publish an interview schedule. If you just want to just do it personally and send the interview invite through your actions. And that's it. And then you have your interviews and you will make your selection and that's it. You're done. Again, you know, we're going live on January 3rd and I do expect that there'll be some questions. So please reach out to me. You can contact us at Oracle HR Help at chattanooga.gov or LM Craig, Lisa Marie Craig, me, at chattanooga.gov for assistance. Your BPs will also be able to be partners during this process. And we're looking forward to working with you all and the new recruiting system. I'm really excited about it. I'm honestly really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great experience for all of us here, but also our candidates. So thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, I'm open to questions. Okay. All right. If we don't have any questions, I thank you and you have a great weekend.